Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Monday Magic Mood Boost. Hi, Kristen. It looks like you are our first person to jump on today. We're super appreciated. Also, our goat of a mod, which is fantastic, AJ. Love that actually, because the Capricorn, that's just chef's kiss. Love that so much. We have a lot to talk about. um, this week is it's the first time, I think, since last year when Pluto got back into Aquarius that just about every planet is going to be catching up to Pluto and having a conjunction. When I say just about every, I mean all the ones that move within like a roughly 2-year cycle, ones that can get around the zodiac that quick. So obviously, Jupiter's not going to be there, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, they're all interacting from different angles, but the more personal planets are all going to conjoin with Pluto this week and heading a little bit into next week. The inner planets plus Mars. Mars is one of the personal planets because he does move faster. He is terrestrial. That's how like close he is to the sun. But he's on the other side of the asteroid belt and he's outside the Earth's orbit. So it gets a little bit, it gets a little bit like pedantic maybe there. Astronomically, it's very specific. But we do sort of ingratiate Mars into the personal planets because he does move. He does move. So if you take less than a year to get through a sign, I feel like you count as personal. So there's one of those going on. Mars pedantic. What? Yeah. Especially Mars being in Capricorn. It's definitely actually, I know more about this strategy than you do. Hey Ren, good to see you. Oh, it's fantastic to see everybody. Christina, good morning. So, yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the conjunctions that are coming up this week. That's going to give us plenty of opportunity to talk about Pluto and their place in Aquarius as well. So, we can get into that. And of course, anything that you guys want to talk about, anything that's coming up for you, anything you're seeing on social media that you're like, is this for real? We had a great conversation about stuff like that on our Wednesday Cozy Gaming and Real Magic stream. And we'll be doing some new stuff there as well. We're going to be getting into a new game this week called Rika, which is going to help us explore the folklore around Baba Yaga, which is some really great stuff. And I think it's going to be really cathartic for the era that we're living in right now. Gotta love it. Today is also the day that the sun moves into Aquarius. So we see that the sun will also be among the planets joining up with Pluto throughout the week to sort of have that conversation. So it's going to be interesting to see now that Pluto gets so much attention in Aquarius. We're going to get to see a lot of that quintessential Pluto and Aquarius energy that's going to help us understand what we're in for the next 20 years ish as we go. So I'm loving the emojis here. We have like every phase of a chicken. Oh, and a cat in a box. Is that Schrodinger's cat? I guess we know it's alive, so that's the best part. So yeah, those are some things that we can talk about. So tomorrow will be a double Aquarius day. Actually, from this evening, if you're talking double Aquarius, Christina, as in the sun and the moon both being in Aquarius, yes. The sun will move. The moon is already in Aquarius. The moon is currently at 8 degrees Aquarius, and the sun will move into Aquarius at about 8:45 tonight Eastern time. So from that point through tomorrow, we will have both of them in there. In fact, the moon, let me gauge when the moon's going to get out of Aquarius here. The moon will be there through the 21st. So, 1920 all day tomorrow, 21st, 1 a.m. So tomorrow will be our biggest double duty Aquarius day. And then, of course, Mars is going to join the group in Aquarius at some point as well. So we get to talk about that. It's a very Aquarian week. Which can be really great. One of the things hopefully we'll get to talk about as people pop on is, as an air sign, Libra, double air days, they can be a lot. And I'm not saying that double air people are a lot. Honestly, double air people are fun as heck. But when you have double air days and you're thinking about air as information, technology, speed of the way news travels and the way we get information, it can be just a lot to take in, a lot of data. So it's like decision paralysis. It can be something. I was dealing with that a little bit earlier this morning, and the sun's not even in Aquarius yet. Yes, I feel bonkers already as well. So we will get into that as we dive into this live, if that's what y'all want to talk about. I think it's probably one of the I say that and then look at some other trends. It's one of the more interesting things that'll happen this week, all the interactions with Pluto. I'm also very interested in Mars's ingress into Aquarius. Let me check on Mars really quickly because he has been wild and out of bounds, but he's officially back in bounds. So that's good. We could use it. Um, yeah. And then tomorrow we have something that's quite interesting. It's the Saturn Uranus sextile. So Saturn and Uranus are in, like, you skip a sign and they're only one sign away from each other. Saturn, of course, is currently still in Pisces. Uranus is currently still in Taurus, but they're both getting ready to make some moves. And as they're approaching the latter degrees of these signs, they're forming sort of like a oh, what's the sixth? Is that a 60 degree? I think it's a 60-degree angle to each other. And so they will have that bit of a connection. And the reason this sextile is more unique than your average is because those are two slow planets. Saturn takes 2.5 years to get through a sign. Uranus takes like a decade. So the fact that they happen to be catching each other like this is something that we take note of. A sextile aspect is nothing that we really look at and we're like, oh no, like we would pay more attention and give more focus to a conjunction, a square, and an opposition because they tend to bring out more activity. Sextile is by and large like ignored as an aspect in a lot of cases because it is so subtle. But between two powerhouse planets like these, it'll be interesting to see this week what kind of surprising shifts in structures that we might see, progress in things that are fundamentally changing, potentially. So, yep, Aquarius is a air sign, fixed, young energy, and transpersonal. So yeah, I guess we could call Aquarius transpersonal. I usually hear that associated with the outer planets, but Aquarius is a very humanitarian sign. So transpersonal is a great keyword for Aquarius as well. Aquarius being that fixed air sign, and of course, not being the water, but the water bearer. Definitely is. It's the one of the only signs that is portrayed as human. So it very much deals with humanity on a social scale, which is really interesting to keep an eye on. With that being the primary hallmark energy, the last great conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn that we had in 2020 was in Aquarius, and that sets a tone for the next 20 years until they can join again in the next portion of their air era. Aquarius also being where Pluto is. And that's a 20-year sort of theme and hum undertone. And that can bring around some really interesting things. We have to remember we're in the early days of it. I know it's been a year already that Pluto's been in Aquarius, and it's been 5 since the conjunction, but that's a year out of 20 and 5 years, or sorry, it's 5 years out of 20 and a year out of 20 that we are seeing. So it is still in that first section of those two cycles that we're looking at. Aquarius is ruled traditionally by Saturn. And so it is, I think it's considered Saturn's more comfortable sign, if I'm right. Saturn has Capricorn and Aquarius. And I think because Saturn is a daytime sign, it's considered more comfortable in the sort of daytime yang, as AJ put it, energy. Polarity is another good word for it. That sort of yang polarity of Aquarius. Saturn is also the daytime ruler of the air triplicity. So we see a lot of associations with Saturn and air, and Aquarius suiting that need and that affiliation. And so with Saturn, we get this structure, this rigidity, but the air sign pushes it just a little outside the lines, right? It's where we find a little bit of rebellion, a little bit of going against the grain, a little bit of genius, a lot of things that say, I can pattern recognize just enough to see things a little bit differently and to see a couple more steps ahead of the strategy than the average person might be looking. So you get Aquarians being just a little bit out of sync with how things are traditionally done or how society does things. They're not of the norm. Usually they're the ones going against it and pushing it, which is not always a bad thing. So you get things that are like, we have to push the norm. And then there's always the resistance to people pushing the norm. So a lot of the time, Aquarius can be both associated with an authoritarian kind of vibe, as well as a sort of collective social egalitarian, I think is the right word, equitable sort of vibe, everybody having access to what they need kind of thing. It is one of the more social supportive signs. And I think right now, if I'm taking my opinion and infusing it into this, just with context for what I see in the world, we're starting off coming out of the Earth era that was very Capricornian and all that kind of stuff. We're having to really till that soil and aerate it, as you might use as a metaphor here. And so, as we're bringing air into that soil, you got to loosen up all the packed dirt. So we're starting up in that a little bit more strict, perhaps authoritarian, perhaps uh, the authoritarian side. And I think we're going to work towards, if we can do this right, we're going to work towards that more equal opportunity situation where people are seen for who they are, what they need. That's one of the ideals we can work towards, but that's one of the things that also keeps me going and keeps my optimism there, knowing that we have that potential to reach for. So good morning. Good morning, Kathy. It's great to see you. So that's a little bit about Aquarius as a sign, which is great because, again, that's where all the planets are going to be hanging out come next week. And most of them are there by tomorrow already. By the end of the week, they're all there. So when I say they're all there, I'm talking about our personal planets. Today, the sun will move into Aquarius, bringing Aquarius season. Happy birth month to my Aquarians out there. Tomorrow, Mercury will move into Aquarius. And then on Friday, Mars will move into Aquarius. Venus is already there. She got there on Saturday. So Venus is in Aquarius as well. And today and tomorrow, the moon is there too. So we'll have the sun, Venus, and Mercury and the moon all in Aquarius at the same time. And then the moon will hightail it out of there just in time for Mars to creep in. But also at the beginning of Aquarius is our old friend Pluto. So Pluto, that slow moving, world shifting, shaping, transforming planet, is kind of lurking in those early degrees still. He came in last January was when Pluto came into Aquarius to stay. And I can actually confirm that. And he's only in the technically fourth degree of Pluto or of Aquarius at this point. So he's not made a ton of progress into it. He got there. That's direct. I want to see signs. He got there on, just waiting for this to catch up. What's it? It wasn't November 19th. Was it 2024? Yeah, I guess so. It was last November. That feels weird to me, but that's okay. So November 19th, 2024, Pluto came into Aquarius to stay. And then has been hanging out in those first 4 or 5 degrees ever since. So he'll make a little bit of progress by the end of this year, but we are going to see all the planets catching up to him this week. So much as I love Pluto, I love Pluto. I accept Pluto for who they are, and I keep an eye on it. Pluto tends to be the planet of transformation. Hey, Carl, great to see you. Hanging on your MC. That's on my ascendant natally. It's coming for my my 4th house right now. Fun. So yes, awesome. So Pluto by archetype, we already talked about Aquarius a little bit. Pluto by archetype is sort of like this physics warping black hole kind of anomalous thing. It tends to take something small and make it massive. It takes something massive and hones it into a high density thing. Think about the black hole. I want Pluto to make the progress in Aquarius faster. It'll be 2046 by the time Pluto gets out. But we're all there with you. Yeah. So Pluto is also we could think about it as a volcano, right? It's the thing that causes destruction in a sense in order to make way for the rebirth. So a volcano erupts and that is chaotic, disruptive, destructive, and then the most fertile soil that you can find on Earth. And so then you get the things growing out of it that are incredible and lush. And so, yes, Pluto can be sort of an indicator of death and rebirth. A lot of people like to get snagged on that whole death word. Relatable. I get it. And also, there is usually another side. So when Pluto comes into contact with something, it does not mean that that's the moment you're going to die. Can confirm. But it does mean that there's like a moment of crisis. And that can be an identity crisis. That can be something internally. It can be something externally. It's a moment that changes things. It's a pivot point in life. And we're seeing Pluto now taking that energy through Aquarius. And it's most noticeable to us on a daily scale when other planets interact with it, particularly those personal planets that we were talking about, the moon, Mercury, Sun, Venus, and Mars. Because they move faster, they can help convey Pluto's agenda to us through their tone. So like Pluto will whisper something in Mars's ear, but you're going to get it in Mars's cranky tone. Or when Pluto whispers something in Venus's ear, you're going to get it in Venus's tone. And that's what we're going to see over the next week as the moon has already passed Pluto. So we don't have to worry about that. That was something that happened a couple hours ago. But Venus, let's see, I'm going to get this correct in order here. We will have the conjunction with Pluto and Venus today. She is perfecting that as we speak. Currently, she is at 2 degrees and 38 minutes. Pluto's at 3 degrees and 18 minutes. So it'll be a little bit before Venus gets there, probably overnight. So that'll be today. We will hear Pluto's agenda through Venus's interpretation. And then tomorrow, Mercury will move into Aquarius, meet up with the sun on the 21st, and then Pluto right after on the 22nd. So we will hear Pluto's agenda through Mercury. Now, what does that mean? Through Venus, we hear it through relationships. We hear it through conversations, potentially in a modern context, conversations around gender, sexuality, that kind of thing, through women's topics, or again, non-male topics tend to just go to Venus. And so we'll hear things in that kind of thing, with relationships, with prices, with value, with art potentially as well. Venus does beauty in all of its forms. And the way that we behold beauty is also subject to that. The way that we exchange and value things of beauty is subject to that. Mercury also does things in sort of a market kind of way. Mercury likes to communicate. And so the exchange of goods is a sort of communication. The rates of currency is another kind of communication, another kind of thing that Mercury can sometimes interact with, but also news headlines, also paperwork, also the different, when I say paperwork, like things like contracts or the way things they are worded, the way those contracts are worded. But just paying attention to news, word of mouth, rumors, those kinds of things. Pluto is very much the one who will unearth whatever skeletons in your closet. Pluto's opening the door and airing it out. Whatever's buried beneath the earth, Pluto is digging it up. So we tend to see things uncovered that had been buried around times when Pluto has interactions. So that's up to the 22nd. And then on the 23rd, the sun will conjoin with Pluto. The sun in world astrology can deal with things of rulership positions, right? So we'll pay attention to the 23rd and say, what's leadership stuff doing right now? What are we uncovering about our leaders? What are we learning? And that's the same day that Mars finally gets out of Capricorn and gets into Aquarius, where he should be a little bit more managed and mitigated than he's been. I would hope. I hope so. And then things are a little bit docile over the weekend, Saturday, Sunday. Monday, though, I will be back here and we will be talking about Neptune coming into Aries again for the first time since the 1800s. And then on the 27th, Mars having his turn with the conversation with Pluto. So Pluto and Mars having a conjunction can be a little bit spicy, heated, those kinds of things. I think it was 2023, March, when it happened last. I remember the exact day of it was hallmarked by headlines regarding things like invasion and that kind of stuff. Not to scare you and things like that, but Mars and Pluto are like, hey, surprise, I've been planning this all along. Um, and it's usually something that we've heard about leading up to it. Uranus might be the thing that's like, hey, you didn't see me coming, but here I am. These will say, by the way, this has been brewing and now it's happening. So yeah. But I'm interested. Next week we will be able to talk about Neptune coming into Aries. That's a big deal. Big deal as in it doesn't happen much. Again, last time Neptune was in Aries was the 1800s. I think it was 1860s to 1870s. We'll talk about the exact dates. We'll talk about the some events that happened around that time, the ones that are a little bit whoa, the ones that are like, oh, that's pretty cool. Let's do more of that. I have done some of that research and I'll bring it to you. And then we'll talk, of course, we'll acknowledge the Mars Pluto thing. By then, we'll have more context from whatever happens this week to guess at what we might expect. And then, of course, we have a new moon in Leo coming up. So that's something that we'll be able to look at too, which will, of course, oppose because the sun and everybody's in Aquarius. That new moon in Leo is opposite to the whole gathering of planets that will be in Aquarius by that time. So lots of stuff coming up. But we got the Cazimi with Mercury and the Sun on the 21st. So, if you're looking for really good ideas, if you're looking for eureka moments, if you're looking for that one thing that just needs to fall into place for the plan to finally work, you might find that around the 21st, around Wednesday this week. So yeah, that's your overview of some of the transits that are coming up. Ride the wave for sure. It's going to be one of those things where it's like, take it, feel it, get neutral, move it forward, and then decide what that means to you. What are you going to do? We do love a panini. Yep. It's funny. Autocorrect will often change Cazimi to panini, unless you're on my phone, in which case Cazimi is in the dictionary because you use it enough. Yeah. So it's a good time for that. This is the time where Mercury's cycle, because Mercury will have conjunction with the sun, Mercury's cycle begins again. Pluto's cycle will begin again on the 23rd as Pluto conjoins with the sun. We use the sun as our basis and our gauge for pretty much everything because all the planets go around the sun, not the earth. So yeah, just realized I do not have my water bottle, but that's okay. So like I said, that's your overview for the week. Anybody want to hear a little bit more? Any questions, anything I can clarify on, anything totally unrelated that you want to talk about with magic, astrology, intuitive stuff, spiritual stuff, theological stuff, whatever it is, I'm fascinated by it and hopefully have read something that might be able to help. It's a great day to be connecting with you guys, though. I am really excited because today you guys will get the latest Alchemist Inkwell podcast episode. Unless, of course, you are on Patreon, in which case you might already have it. But Christine, thank you so much. I say it that way because I love my Twitch channel too. And I really want that to be something that is a community. And I was just about to talk about it a little bit more. It's one of my favorite things I get to do in the week. This is one of my favorite things. And that is one of my favorite things. And the more that those can be nurtured and grow and help people and, just be awesome. I'm excited about that. I will remember that you are classy 420. Oh, you're classy 420. Okay, great. I think AJ and I were having coffee yesterday and we were talking about some of the comments you made in the chat this past week. We loved them. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate your support a ton. I'm glad that it's mutually beneficial, that you're enjoying it as well. I'm so excited. Like I said, we're jumping into a game this week called Rika. Rika is going to really center around the folklore of Baba Yaga, which is so appropriate for the week that Venus and Pluto conjoin. Baba Yaga is basically your Slavic crone archetype, but she's so chaotic neutral. I love it. I've been channeling into her energy. I've been doing some reading so I can get some of her context. She really likes it when you do your research on her. She wants you to know your stuff. When I channeled into her, she was like, "We'll find out. There's plenty of things that you can read about it. Get it right. Do the work." It's like, okay, no problem doing that. But even also as reading and channeling at the same time, and you get into her kind of just being like, there's that, and I can do all of it, and blah blah blah. But she's very much, in the more Greek lore, you have Hecate, who is a triple sort of lunar goddess and can do the maiden mother crone thing. Baba Yaga is like, nope, we are a crone. we have this niche. It's the thing. Um, and so she becomes this sort of overarching crone witch of the woods archetype. Um, Hansel and Gretel's witch that lives in the woods is a variation that you could think of to get into it. Of course, the house is not the same. Baba Yaga has a hut that is on chicken legs in this game, and in the lore, often on chicken legs, but also sometimes on like goat legs or other types of legs. But the hut walks. So we'll also be able to get into some herbalism and herb lore, which is going to be really fun. Um, Herbs to me are one of the harder things to keep track of in my mind, so I'm really excited to have, like, associations to make with it. If I can't make a metaphor, an analogy, a picture, I don't learn as well. So this is something I'm excited to kind of get into, to have things to relate back to and connect with. So, that'll be really fun too. Um, and just to try it out. It's really great. It's gonna be fun to play and to be able to just explore it with everybody. I love that, typically we hear about witches riding on brooms. Baba Yaga rides around in a mortar with a pestle to steer. I think that's phenomenal. I love a good mortar and pestle. So yeah, I'm super excited to play it. I'm going to be starting completely fresh so that I will have no background of this game whatsoever. So anything that pops up, it's going to surprise me. It's going to be like we will experience it brand new together. And I'm kind of excited for that too. That'll be great. Um, yeah. So thank you to everybody who watches the Twitch channel. It's so much fun. That'll be on Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And then Friday, we are going to be able to do our Alchemist Ink spill, but it's going to be extra special this week, you guys. That'll be on the Twitch channels as well, and YouTube and Patreon. We simulcast that pretty much everywhere we can. Emily and I will be in the same room for that. We will be together. So that's going to be phenomenal to do, to just be able to do that with us in the same room. I'm so excited to go see Em. Like we say this all the time, like we're really good friends and we live across the country from each other. And I think it's really interesting when we do see each other in person. There's this, like, I see you all the time every week, but like I'm in your space now and it's so different. And we host these trips together. And oftentimes we are so on hosting these trips, like in Thailand. We were on the trip together, right? But we barely saw each other. I'm in one van, Em's in another van. There's always something going on. Usually the tables are all split up and we're trying to make sure everybody gets like equal attention and we get to be involved with all the conversations. And this is, I think, the first time Em and I will ever have been together where we're not hosting something. We're not, putting on an event. We're just writing. We are just taking a weekend at an Airbnb, writing and ordering excellent takeout food, and also doing our ink spill with you guys. So that's going to be really, really cool. And I can't wait. It's going to be so refreshing. Yeah, it's going to be good. AJ was asking yesterday about synastry and my chart with M's chart. When you look at two people's charts and how they complement each other's, we call that synastry in astrology. Em and I have pretty fun synastry, and I'm glad that it shows. I'm glad that we've been able to make this thing that we've been doing for the last half a decade. Yeah. So hopefully you guys join us. The energy is always just a little bit extra when we're in person together. So that'll be really, really, really fun to just be in that space. Yeah. What are you guys looking forward to this week? What's coming up? Um, yeah, cool. And then after that, of course, we'll see each other again in Peru, which is, I'm starting to finally, usually a couple weeks to like maybe a couple months, I start sending my energy to the space that we're going to next. And I've started feeling my energy going to Peru, and it's going to be nice. It's going to be so nice. And I can also tell the food's going to be good. This is one of the things I am on top of. Your son's birthday is Wednesday. Lots of cake this week. Oh, that sounds delightful. That's amazing. I'm glad you get tons of cake. Cake is great. Cake is a really good thing in life. I love cake. I think that's fantastic. Also, we have Zelda Bear over here in one of her beds. She got a brand new bed over the weekend. Jack got a brand new bed over the weekend. We are modifying our whole home because poor Zelda is entering her Baba Yaga phase of life. We used to call her Zaritza because when a dog gives you their voice, and I know that sounds wild, but like Jack, we got his voice right away. Dan and I tried different voices with Zelda, and then one day we both gave her like this Russian accent, and we knew that was her. So we've called her a little Tsaritsa. She was supposed to be a princess, but no, she's a Tsaritsa. No princess, Tsaritsa. And now she's getting arthritis, so I've started calling her Baba Yaga. um, and I'm sure she's fine with that too. Um, Yeah, but we are adjusting the house, getting little puppy ramps, carrying her up the stairs, which I don't care. She is my Zelda bear, so if I get to carry her up the stairs, I'm singing her Zelda bear hugs songs to the tune of Winnie the Pooh. The lyrics change every time. It depends on how I'm feeling, but she gets Zelda bear hugs every morning, and I get my cuddle time with Zelda, which I love. Um, yeah, Zelda bear. Cake is amazing. Sometimes cake for breakfast with coffee just sets the whole vibe for the day. I couldn't agree more, Christina. I've decided recently, like, if it's not going to happen, but if I were ever like deified at some point in the future and people were like, oh, what offerings do we offer this deity? If you were a deity, what would your offerings be? Because my offerings would be cheesecake and coffee. That's how it would be. Specifically, if you wanted to go real big, Oreo cheesecake and coffee. Phenomenal. Yes, those are the things. Um, things we are able to do as a grown up because no one's telling us we can't. I love that so much. Everybody talks about Saturn return as like this, oh no. And I'm like, no, that was when I realized I have no boundaries anymore set upon me by other people. And I love it. I'm here for it. I had a cat that I started calling grandma when she got old and used a whole different voice for her. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Zelda's voice hasn't changed. I wonder if it will later. She's still young. She doesn't care that she has arthritis. Like she's only 6. And I say only 6, but she's only 6. She forgets that she has arthritis. We're not even entirely sure. We're still waiting to get x-rays and stuff done to see where she's at on that. But she'll be meeting a new best friend tomorrow to help us do some training and maybe physical therapy to help her out because we are those pet parents. I'm not even sorry. That is still so, yeah. Corgis can live up to like 18 years old. So she's entering midlife. I know this year or next year. I know because they did this to us with Jack when he hit 8. They were like, "You really should put him on the senior dog food," and I was like, "How dare you say that about my precious little baby?" But if that's what's good for him, yeah, he is on the senior dog food. He is 10 now. Yeah. We actually asked our vet because we took Zelda to the vet and we were like, hey, this is what we're noticing. Can you just take a look at her? And Dan said, are we helicopter pet parents? And she's like, no, you're just good pet parents. So, but that being said, if we're good pet parents, these pets are ridiculous because our vet knows them so well. We've only lived down here for 3 years. Our vet knows them so well. They've basically said they're going to name 2 wings of their vet hospital after our dogs because they see them enough. Because Jack's accident prone, and then Zelda just has these mysterious things that go wrong. We just have to figure them out. She is a puzzle, just like the game she was named after. Um, yep. Validation. I know. We're all entering midlife this year. Bless Zelda for coming with us. Oh, we're gonna go into that good night together. Not at all quietly. So that's good. Yeah. Yep, I'm gonna, hike Machu Picchu and stuff this year. I'm excited for it. I get to hike a mountain in Hawaii in a couple weeks too, and we're gonna do some star spotting, and I'm gonna learn star photography with my phone, and I'm gonna teach everybody on every trip that we ever have. So if you're ever gonna come on a trip with us from now on, I will likely be teaching you how to take good star photography with your phone. So enjoy that. It doesn't have to be this year. I will teach it forever. I don't see me ever not being excited about that. Um, me too. I'm going to learn so good. Yeah. Uh, yes. Yeah. I hope so, Kathy. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. I'm excited. I've looked at my astrology for this year. I choose to be excited for every new year. There are plenty of things that I'm excited for that I think do happen this year. And then there are some things too where it's like that's going to smack me in the face, but you know what? It's not going to feel like getting hit by a car. And I can do that. So I already know and I can handle it. How's the weather in Peru in March? We think, according to like Google, it's supposed to be somewhere in the 60s. We're going to be in high altitudes as well. It is their autumn because they are in the southern hemisphere. So it's going to be somewhere in the 60s at the good times, probably down into the 40s when it's not so daylight out or whatever. Um, so yeah, I'm taking layers. You people will notice me maybe like hiking a little extra just to stay warm. I have terrible circulation. It doesn't do the stuff. So I do what I need to stay extra warm. I have hand warmers. I have a heated coat. I make sure. I'll probably have my hat from Iceland. Um, just to make sure because cold Krista is a little bit of cranky Krista and I would like to make sure that I don't have to be cranky Krista. Um, she gets stuff done. They get stuff done. I haven't been cranky Krista in a while, which is why I just misgendered them, but it's okay. Love the battery powered hand warmers. Yeah. Yeah. And you just like slip them into your gloves. It's fantastic. Bring some Iceland magic with you. Yeah, I'm actually, so when I was in Iceland, I had studied a little bit of Galdra, which is folk magic that is primarily around Iceland, but there's also Satyr. Satyr magic is what I would prefer to learn more about. Galdra is more Odin's side. Satyr is more, you're right there. What's her name? Odin's wife. I can't believe I'm not remembering her name. I talked to her the entire time we were in Iceland. She helped me out through a lot. Freya, thank you, AJ. Yeah, Satyr is more Freya's magic. And so I want to lean into that a little bit more. The group of practitioners that I am a part of, we are learning a little bit more about what good sources there are for Satyr magic. Satyr magic doesn't have a lot left recorded about it. So it's something people are having to sort of unearth a little bit. Maybe Pluto and Venus will help us with that, unearthing some of the divine feminine magic. Love that. But we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be great. I hope we reclaim a lot more of that stuff. That's going to be fun. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So people are looking forward to birthdays this week. Little Aquarians. That's lovely. What else is going on? What have you guys been hearing, seeing? Anything I can clarify or anything in astrology that you're like, hey, this doesn't make sense to me. Can you talk about it? I can try. Let's see. Patricia, I have a random question. I know my exact time and place of birth. Epic. I do not resonate with a lot of things in my birth chart. I do not resonate with the current transits most of the time. Any thoughts? Yes. There are a couple things that could be happening here. One, the sources that you're using to tell you about your birth placements are not doing you justice. That happens a lot. People will come to me and be like, I hate my birth chart. And I'll look at it and be like, but what about this? And I still interpret that same birth chart as we're rectifying, which I'm going to get into in a second. And then they end up actually loving their birth chart by the end of it because we get to the interpretation that actually worked. Astrology has gone through a lot. And a lot of its original source texts were destroyed, lost, blah, blah, blah. Particularly in like the 1800s, right? We lost access to a lot of stuff. And then certain people took it and made stuff up because it was easier for them. And so that became popular. And then when we rediscovered a lot of old stuff and started translating it only in the 90s, we have to reinfuse that into it. And pop astrology has not gotten there yet. And a lot of astrological practitioners have not really added it to their lexicon yet, right? Like you don't have to adopt it entirely if it's not your thing, but it's important to look at all the different types of astrology so you can tell which one you like rather than just going with whatever's in front of you and thinking that that's the only way. So that's one thing, Patricia, that may be the situation. And then also, you may need a birth chart rectification. The time may not be perfect. It depends on where you got it from. If it's your birth certificate, maybe the nurse took a couple minutes or whatever and wrote it down too late. If it's from your parents and they're just like, Dan's mom swears he was born at one time and it was actually hours So I had to rectify that chart and we did find it, and it was a process, but it was like, yeah, I think your mom just remembers wrong. She was drugged to heck, right? And in a lot of pain. So, in a windowless room, that's hard. The other thing is for the transits part, timing techniques. Some of the transits may not actually mean anything to you because those planets aren't activated. Our birth chart is not an all at once kind of situation. Our birth chart is a promise that unfolds over time. And so we look at our chart and we say, okay, there's Venus. She does this. When? When is the question that is usually the first question people ask in astrology, but it's not the one that we realize pertains to the planets. Like, when will this Venus come back to offer her promise, right? One of the analogies I use all the time is the fairy godmothers in Sleeping Beauty. When the princess was born, they all came and said, you're going to have a beautiful voice. You're going to have this. Of course, Maleficent was like, when you're 16, you're going to prick your finger and you're going to fall asleep for 100 years. She did timing techniques. When you're 16, this promise is going to come to fruition. And so that's what happens. They're not always bad ones. It's a mix, right? Life is a mix. And so that's where we find timing techniques can help us understand, like, some of these transits mean nothing to me either. If it's not involving Venus, like, I'm keeping an eye on myself today, but if it's not involving Venus, if it's not involving maybe even Mars, who rules my chart, I don't really feel it. Like, I don't feel every Mercury retrograde. I don't feel every new moon and full moon. Same thing goes for all the other transits too. If they're not in an important place for you, it's not, in your setting. It's not in your story at that time. Other ones will be. And sometimes it's really subtle and background stuff that we find with timing techniques. So those are my preliminary thoughts. If we did a consultation, I could probably help. I have a new program that might help us do some like eyeballing of rectification. I'm learning a little bit more how to do that a little bit quicker, so I don't have to do it as an entirely separate thing. It helps to do it as an entirely separate thing because you can get a lot more out of it that way. You can take your time with it. That's something I would be able to do off a phone call and then bring in. But yeah. So Kristen says Time Passages is one of my favorite apps, by the way. Chani is good at probably has good for like casting charts and stuff. And if they give you the same chart, that's another good indicator that the calculations are still there, and we might be looking at the times. The particularly the time, like, your day, where. So the time may be a little bit off, or it's the interpretation of the chart, or especially if you're just doing generic stuff from Time Passages and Chani, I wouldn't use those at all. I never look at those things. They're always so generic. It means absolutely nothing. So I would consult an actual astrologer. I'm of course available, but if you resonate with someone else, try that as well. And let an astrologer actually talk with you about your chart. That is so much better. That's why one of the things I always tell people is like, AI is not going to get you there with that kind of stuff either, because it's going to be very generic and try to one size fits all you. And how dare anybody try to one size fit all anybody. So that's my 10 cents, I guess, on that. Kristen says, I just got an EMF reader and I'm hoping to go play with it for ghost chatting investigation stuff. I just need the weather to warm up a smidge because I don't think I want to play with it in my house. That's smart. While you're getting used to it, if you feel like it's going to creep you out, if there's something in your house, don't play with it in your house. But I'm interested where you want to go. Because if you're going to go to a cemetery for your first EMF reader thing, I recommend maybe not. One of the things that I've noticed, and this is a mixed bag as well, take it or leave it. If you want to go to a cemetery, you can. There's nothing wrong with that. I just find cemeteries are not as hopping as people like to think. If you were to die and your spirit was still here and you had the option to hang out in certain places that meant something to you, would you pick the rock that's just sitting in a field among other people's rocks? Or would you go to the place where your people are? Would you go to the place that had memories for you? Those kinds of things. Sometimes when someone senses somebody at their grave, they'll show up there and be like, hey, you rang the bell. What's going on? I'm here. But a lot of the time you pick stuff up more in locations, in buildings that were meaningful or have history. So I recommend that, just as an aside. Kristen, you haven't said that you're going to go to a cemetery. I just use it as an example because it's a really good general thing, for anybody who's wondering. I got my first EMF detector when I was 13, and I had a good time with it. I did use it in my house because I was convinced there was something in my house. There was. Um, and we handled it. It was a jerk. I didn't like it, but it was attached to an object. I got rid of the object, much to my mom's chagrin. And the rest was history. Yeah. Yeah, but I'm interested. Ghost stories. I have ghost stories. Yeah, I think Em and I have done a couple episodes on our ghost stories. Um, yeah, they're just people, and sometimes they're really with it, but they're not too kind. I've met some kind ghosts, and honestly the kindest ghost I met was in a cemetery, but that's because she chose to go there as a guardian. So she kind of like was, needed something to do with the afterlife. Noticed a lot of people came to this place and wanted to sort of guide them to all of the things that were going on there. AJ, it's Hollywood Cemetery, actually, here in Richmond. Reminds me so much of the cemetery in Haunted Mansion, the ride at Disney, because there is a lot happening there. I think people find socialization after death there is what it feels like. So that's fun. Have you met any ghosts on your Trova trips that you liked? Um, yeah, we met a couple ghosts in the Medici Palace. I know we're gonna run into ghosts in Germany. I know we're gonna run into ghosts in Germany. We're doing a lot of castles there. I know we're planning on someday doing like a London trip, and when we do, I'm saying that we need to go to Hampton Court Palace because I ran into ghosts there when I was younger. Um, Very forthcoming. Yeah, seriously, we're going to do a lot of ghost interaction, especially in Germany. Um, yeah. And how do you take a scary out of a lot of these things? Oh my gosh. I worked hard on this, so I can tell you exactly what I did. Here's one of my things. When I accomplish something or when I've set a goal for myself, I also track every step, because I'm like, if one day I get to a point where I've figured this out, I want to be able to tell someone exactly how I did it so that they can follow those steps too and just make it easy. So with this, I used to be terrified. When I was a kid, we used to watch John Edwards Crossing Over, right? And he would read people in a gallery setting and say, like, this is your loved one who passed on, this about them, this about them, this about them. My dad used to look at me and say, you could do that if you wanted to. And I would be like, no, thanks. I hate the idea of death. I would rather not. I want to go upstairs and not be terrified, because I was seeing faces next to my bed every night. I was seeing faces when I closed my eyes every night. I was seeing something crawl across the hallway and like come up in my face. Everybody liked to get in my face because that's how they knew I would get scared. Um, I was sleeping with a Bible under my pillow. I was so scared. And so I hated, like, The Sixth Sense. My family wanted to watch it. I had to go in a different room, couldn't do it. So the 13 Ghosts was another one everybody wanted to watch. And I was like, no, because it was too close for comfort for me. I was seeing those things and I didn't want images in my head for them to use against me. What eventually I got into was when I started dealing with um, more pesky kind of demons. Em and I have talked about like the spectrum of experiences with demons. But these were demons that were trying to be a little bit malicious. And at one point, they did it to someone that wasn't me. And I got ticked. And so I basically tugged on my Scorpio energy and just decided, like, you're a 3-year-old trying to get my attention, and if you're going to do it this way, I'm not giving it to you. So either you wise up and tell me what's going on and what you need like an adult, or I'm ignoring you and you're just going to spiral into nothing. This happened a lot too, where I would run into ghosts. Like, I was in a hacienda in Ecuador, and there was this girl screaming at us from the balcony all dinner long. And so eventually I went upstairs and I was like, what? What is your problem? So I got to the point where I was like, I'm I had to identify, like, what am I actually afraid of? They're not going to kill me. They're not going to hurt me. If they're going to hurt me, I can get back up. And I know, like, I knew what to do in order to heal myself and also get rid of anything negative. So I was like, okay, now my job is communication. So I decided that if you're going to be cranky about it, you're just having a problem with feeling heard and understood. And I will invite the opportunity for you to be understood and heard if you act like an adult, mature human being. And some of the kid ghosts I've run into have been a lot more mature than the adult ghosts I've run into. I will be honest. This girl was around 15. It was your so typical situation of like, she wanted to be with this guy. Dad said no. She decided to end life because of that, and was still upset um that nobody like was upset enough about it. Nobody felt bad about it to the point of like beating themselves up enough. Now these people are also long gone, but have probably transitioned, and she didn't get to run into them. And I was like, do you realize these conversations you need to have aren't going to happen here? Because I don't know if you've noticed my clothes, like it's been hundreds of years, or at least 100 years. You should come to terms with this, figure out what you're actually upset about. And so I end up being like the therapist ish. I'm not a qualified therapist, but I do have counseling skills training. And so we talk about that kind of stuff. And so you just realize that like they're just hurt people if they're trying to scare you, or if they're demons and they're trying to scare you. I've come to the realization, or at least my understanding is, I'm supposed to be hearing you, and I haven't heard things up until now, and you are the sort of last straw, right? Like when you want to say something to someone and you whisper to them and you're like, hey, can I tell you something? And they don't hear you. So you're like, hey, can I tell you something? And they ignore you again. And eventually you're like, hey, can I tell you something? That's where the demons come in. So they're like, hey, you're not listening. Now I'm going to get all up in your face about it. Didn't have to be this way, but here we are. So when I send something like that, I'm like, okay, what did I miss? What's going on? Like, I'm listening now. That makes it so much easier. Um, 90% of the time, listening is really helpful. And if they're not someone to be reasoned with or something to be reasoned with, get them the heck out of your space. It's your space. So firm boundaries, and realizing that it's just like when people are like, well, how are you not afraid of spiders? And they're like, well, they're probably more afraid of you than you're afraid of them. They can't do as much as you think they can. In a lot of situations, again, there are extreme situations, right? So be careful, be discerning, do your research, you know, do your due diligence. But most, like 95% of what I've run into is just hurt people. And I get that. So I try to just hold space. And then if holding space doesn't work and it's not going to work, I hold boundaries. So that's what I do. I still don't like horror movies, because they put images in my head that I have no control over, and then things can use those, and I'm trying to sleep, and it gets into my dreams, and I can't actually take action in those moments, so I don't like them more. That still makes me kind of leery, but it's just because I have lack of control. So I'm a control freak. One of my fears is not having control. They put me in a space of not feeling like I have control. So I'm aware of it. It's not able to change it yet. Um, yeah, cool. Hollywood Cemetery was actually the first public cemetery people used to picnic there. Yeah, I read a book in a local cafe about it. People used to hang out more in cemeteries. They did actually. Cemeteries used to be public spaces. So, like in the early days of the Christian church, before it became what it is today, when they weren't allowed in a lot of spaces, they would actually hold church services, which was just communion. Church services back in the day were like read the Bible, try to understand the Bible, eat together, and donate to the poor. That was your Sunday. And they used to do that in cemeteries because they were public spaces where they couldn't be told to leave. So, yes, can confirm that. Plant trees and flower bushes next to their graves. Like people hung out a lot more there. Yep. And probably in happy memories. I've talked to ghosts there and he told us to go get ice cream. Oh, I love that. That's phenomenal. Yep. Ghost therapist for the win. We all just need therapy. I swear that's like the solution for so much. Someone to help you talk through things. Um, You've heard about waiting for the right therapist, but yeah, yeah. Can you imagine waiting hundreds of years for someone who's willing to just actually hear you? But that's what we're here for. Ghost therapist coming to a Twitch channel near you. Yeah, it happens. There have been situations where it's like, "Hang on, I need to go handle." I was on a trip to Ecuador with a bunch of people, and I had to say to them, people who knew me and people who didn't, when I was like, "Hey, I need to go do something." And then I went upstairs and I was like, "So can someone confirm for me that, this person hung themselves from that beam?" And it was probably a 15-year-old girl. And this hacienda was in a family, right? So it was like their ancestor that had done it. So they were able to confirm it. And I was like, "Cool. Um, can you confirm this? Can you confirm that? I'm going to go talk to her and tell her what the situation is now, blah, blah, blah." Far as I know, I think she did move on. I didn't have any more problems with her after that. And they didn't report anything else after that. So, yeah, sometimes they just want what's, and also sometimes they just want, and sounds like ghost needed besties more than a pro, right? Yeah. Australia. Um, yeah, I don't do horror movies. Do you have any places you recommend adventuring to as places to start practicing? Yeah, anything that has been around for a long time. So if a building has history, it likely has spirits. We often find I will if you have an old hotel, that's one of the first places I notice stuff. Hotels, I I was in an Airbnb in South Carolina or North Carolina. I can't remember which one. But I was having a bad day and I was on the phone with Dan and I was like, and it's raining and I have to do this. And I walked into the room and in the room is this little ghost boy sitting at the chair. And I was like, and my room's haunted. Like I can't handle this right now. I made friends with him over the weekend. We got along really well. But that does happen. Hotels can sometimes be built on locations that the land is haunted. Woods can have a lot in there that you want to be careful with because, like, are you talking to a spirit of a person or spirit of an elemental thing? Or I swear to you, in Pennsylvania and in Appalachia, like the northern Appalachian Mountains, it's all eldritch stuff. It's not always bad, but it's just old. So you got to be careful at what its boundaries might be and how culturally different those things might be. But yeah, hotels are good. Old, so many people take old houses and make them B&Bs. Perfect. We had a B&B we used for our writing retreats up in my old town, and there was a ghost there that each one of our cohorts that would come in every year would get to meet her and validate more and more. And we were able to find news articles about her and all sorts of stuff. It was great. Yeah. Hi, Erroneous. Good to see you. Um, Stranger Things is about as scary as I go. Same, Stefan. Yeah, same. Graveyards are always attached to a church. Cemeteries are public or private. Yep. And not attached to a church. My bestie taught me that. Yay. Feels like half my experience have happened at Hollywood Cemetery. Yeah, it's very active there. And again, social. Like I said earlier, it's like the cemetery in Haunted Mansion, the ride, where there's just a lot of people hanging out there because this is the crossroads that they've all met on. Um, yeah. I went and did a tour at Penhurst in PA. Woof. And we kept having things light up. Yeah, Gettysburg is another great place. If you have access to Pennsylvania, I don't know if you've noticed this, but most horror movies take place in Pennsylvania. And that's where I grew up. I hate that fact, but also I don't blame it. I don't blame people for using that as a location. Gettysburg is wild with how much activity you can find there. Uh, do you want to leave? Do you want us to leave you alone? And lit up again. See, thank you for respecting that. That's awesome. The other thing that I can't stand about a lot of paranormal investigation shows and things is that they instigate. And like if you were a person in your space and someone came in and started insulting you and yelling at you, would you be inclined to do what they're asking you to do? No. So take that into consideration too. They're just people. And it's a language barrier. No whistling in the woods. If you heard whistling in the woods, no, you didn't. Our home was set over an old sanitarium. Yeah, I heard oh man, Kathy. That's a lot. Um, you were talking about the Appalachian Mountains, and yeah, they feel like it is. Yeah. The Appalachians, I love them so much. Um, I actually grew up spending most of my time in the woods. We grew up, my house was on 18 acres of just trees. And so I spent a lot of my time just in the woods, sitting on this old hunting stand that someone had left there before we owned the house. And I would just sit in the trees and talk to stuff. Yeah, it is like Haunted Mansion. Yeah. Battlefields are intense. Yeah, they are. Yeah. Yeah. So just make sure that you treat it normal first. Because when you go there, you want to make sure you're like, okay, this is what I'm expecting. This is what I'm going to do. It's kind of like riding a roller coaster, right? You're still going to have the thrill. You're still going to be surprised, but check to see if those are the loops and the drops that you really want to be experiencing before doing something like that. And then go and be respectful and open to learning. Sister and I used to live in apartments. That was once a cemetery. Why? Why? Tree spirits, absolutely. I talk to trees all the time. I always find my best friend tree with everywhere I live. It's you can't see it from here, but that's my best friend tree here. Um, I was once in Scotland and we had the option to take like a paved path or a wooded path up to this one monument. And I was like, I have to take the wooded path because the trees want to tell me something. And I went in and then there they were. Yeah. So yeah, always talk to the trees. Trees are super smart, sometimes a little sassy. Think grandmother willow. Um, so yeah, tree spirits. I love them. They help give me perspective because they've been around for so long, right? They're like, this thing is a passing thing. There was a before, there will be an after. It's not original. Like this is a cycle. It's okay. You will do the next thing in the cycle and it will move on. And I'm like, that's helpful. Thanks. The wisdom. Yeah. Yep. I love me some trees. Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you guys so much. I will see you next Wednesday. For anybody who's interested, we're going to be starting Rika, learning about Baba Yaga, herbs, all that wonderful stuff on Twitch this Wednesday. And then Em and I will be in person together for our ink spill on Friday. So I look forward to being able to see you guys there. Steph, I'm glad you hugged the trees when you got back from Iceland. That's appropriate. Awesome. See you guys for some Rika on Wednesday. In the meantime, be safe. Remember, observe this week and take aligned action when you feel good about it. I hope it's a really good week for all of you. Bye.